everyone, and welcome to another ConCensis podcast episode brought to you by none other than Censis Technologies. I'm your host, Gabrielle, and today I'm so happy to be joined today by Barry Phetteplace, Chief Technology Officer at Censis, and Susan Isaac, Product Director at Censis. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the future of sterile processing. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Thank you, Barry and Susan, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So glad to have you on. Well, you know what, before we get started, can we please go through your name, your title, and just what your role is within Censis Technologies? Barry, can you start us off?
Sure. My name is Barry Phetteplace. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Censis. So I'm responsible for all of product development and the overall product direction.
Wonderful. And Susan?
Hey, everyone. Susan Isaac. I am the Director of Product. So I'm responsible for all of product management for our entire portfolio of software products.
Thank you. So Barry, in your role of Chief Technology Officer, what is your vision for Censis in terms of continuous innovation?
Sure. Really what we're working on is to just start to pull everything together so we're all heading in the same direction. We want to make sure that we're establishing a well-vetted and robust pipeline of innovative products and features. I say well-vetted because there are times when product development teams can go down a rabbit hole of doing something called speculative development. And that's where they're building features and functions and creating solutions really that are in search of a problem. And in the end, you find out that you wasted a lot of time, money, and energy building something that customers really aren't interested in. And you end up going back to the drawing board. So we want to make sure that everything we do has been thoroughly researched and vetted with our customers, not just vetted internally with our own stakeholders, but really with our customer base, and understand that it's something that makes sense to them, that's going to delight them, but is really going to solve problems for them.
No, for sure. I mean, you want it to make sense and you do want it to solve problems. So, in creating that well-vetted pipeline, Barry, how does Susan's role fit into that vision?
In every product development organization I've worked in that has been successful, it at its heart has had a good, strong product management organization. And that's what we've been working to develop here over the last 3 or 4 months. And Susan comes into that with a wealth of background and information on how to really start to establish the process and procedures that we need to build out this product management organization. So we're excited to have her, and we look forward to seeing what she does.
Absolutely. So Susan, that's some high praise right there. So you've got your good, strong product management organization, and with your background in lean portfolio management, how does that help support the vision for innovation at Censis?
Yeah, I'll start off with explaining what is lean portfolio management. So the 3 words, right? Lean, portfolio, and management. When we talk about lean, it basically means it's an iterative approach that allows us to deliver faster in smaller increments, which are effective. And portfolio refers to the entire portfolio of product that we have. So every single, whether it's on-premise, on cloud, every single product that we have. So including hardware, not just software, hardware, software, all of that. So all of that comes under the portfolio, and it's how we manage it. So it's basically a set of lean principles that connects strategy to execution. A lot of times companies have great strategy. The strategy does not execute very well. We don't deploy it very well. And at the end, you get products which don't delight anyone, which create no value for anyone, either for the company or for the customers. So LPM, as Lean Portfolio Management is abbreviated to, enables that a company can connect its strategy through inception, development, sustainment, and all the way to retirement of its portfolio in a way that is keeping the customer central and ensuring that everything that we do revolves around the customer. In my previous roles in product management, especially at Fluke Electronics, I was able to see firsthand how applying LPM enabled us to move away from the waterfall methodology of development, where we had requirements gathering right at the beginning. We go through development in a silo, and then we release it and realize that this is not exactly what adds value to the customer. So LPM enables us to ensure that we can solve pain points and bring value in the most efficient and productive way for both the customer and for the company. And that's what I'm hoping we can do at ConCensis using LPM. It allows us to create this suite of products through which we can not just delight the customer, but add immense value to them on an everyday basis. The work we do at ConCensis is so critical because we ensure quality and also prevent infection in the peri-op loop. And we want to strive to be that engine and partner for productivity and quality for all our customers.
Of course, that's what makes such a strong company. And, with your strong background in LPM, and you have that experience in adding value to the customer experience. So you're probably going to have wonderful insights into this, but what are some problems worth solving, and how does customer feedback actually help you understand what POW ConCensis seeks to solve?
Yeah, so problems worth solving is another part and tool that is part of the LPM tool set. Like Barry mentioned earlier, speculative development is where you create something, you release it, and then you try and find a problem that it solves. What problems worth solving does is it reverses the process. It ensures that we always start from the customer. We strive to understand what is it that the customer wants at the end of the day. Because all innovation, no matter how cool it is, no matter how amazing it looks and sounds and feels, at the end of the day, it's useful only if it truly provides some value to the customers. So with problems worth solving, we always start with the customer, right? So for example, at ConCensis, what we would do is we would start with understanding what a typical day in an SPD for one of our customers looks like. What is the workflow? What are the different tasks they perform? What are the different instruments that they use? What are the different scan points they have? What are the different software that they use? It's not just bound by what ConCensis has, but it's everything. Right? What does a typical customer do on a daily basis? Once we understand this entire workflow, this typical day for them, then we try and identify pain points and gaps. What is it that the customer is trying to do but cannot do today? What is it the customer should be doing to improve efficiency? What are the different processes we can speed up or that need to be sped up? So PWS is valuable because what this process allows us to do is not just identify pain points or gaps that exist currently, but it also allows us to understand what else, where else, and how else can we add value to our customers. Maybe it's through a product that no one's thought of. Maybe it's through a product that we don't have today. Maybe it's through a process. But what this entire PWS exercise allows us to do is define problems from a customer perspective, and not from a feature, product, or a developer perspective, but from a truly business issue customer perspective. What is it that the customer is trying to do?
Absolutely. And as you said, striving to understand what the customer wants at the end of the day is centric to all of this. So you spoke a little bit to this, but is there a specific process that the product development team uses to solve problems?
Yeah, so problems worth solving always starts with what we call VOC, or voice of customer. It's talking to our actual customers, right? It's not talking to product managers, it's not talking to sales, it's not talking to developers, but actually going out and talking to our actual customers. What we call going to Gemba is going to the actual site and then understanding what a customer does on a daily basis. Once we have mapped out their workflows, their pain points, what we then do is we prioritize the pain points based on not just what we can deliver, but also on what is the most business critical need for the customer. And once this is done, then that's where the iterative experimentation starts. So you create a beta version of a solution, you give it to the customer, and you ask for feedback. The customer deploys this, uses it for some time, gives feedback. We incorporate the feedback and then go back to the customer. So this happens until we are sure and until we are confident that the solution we have proposed is something that is truly valuable and solves the problems that we set out to solve in the first place. Once this happens, then it moves into the development phase where the developers work on creating this. And even this doesn't happen in a vacuum or a silo, right? Even in this process, there is feedback from the customer. What this enables us to do is, when we reach that place where we can release the product or a feature or this new cool thing that we've created, we ensure that this is exactly what customers want. This is what customers need. And we're ensuring that everything that we put out is creating value for the customer. So at the end of the day, PWS ensures that we always start from the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, taking the process of taking that feedback and developing that into something that the customer actually has value and recognizes that value is incredibly important. So that process is wonderful for that purpose. And, Barry, I'd love to loop you back into the conversation because we'd like to know what kind of innovative solutions that you think will come into play in the not so distant future for ConCensis.
Sure. As Susan said, we've had a lot of VOC conversations over the past 6 months with customers, understanding what the problems we're solving are and iterating on that. If you look back across the past 2+ years of the pandemic, customers and companies inside and outside the perioperative loop have been forced to do more with less. So understanding how they can really maximize their productivity based on how they're running their businesses, how they're running their flows, is something that we found that customers are really interested in, have a huge appetite for. So one of the best ways to do that is really to understand the data and make non-judgmental types of decisions, trying to do it qualitatively and quantitatively, but based on data is something that we hear a lot from customers. So being a SaaS-based company, meaning that our application runs in the cloud, we have access to all this data. So what do you do with it? And starting to sift through that and help provide meaningful analysis is something that I think a lot of customers are looking for. Help us understand what we're doing well. Help us understand what we're not doing so well. What could we do if we're not doing well? How do we do better? So trying to come up with solutions that really highlight those sorts of questions and provide answers are things that we're going to be focused on and things that our customers are looking for. So certainly problems we're solving. Some of the other things, certainly along those lines are artificial intelligence, machine learning. We have sister companies within Fortive that build sterilizers and washers, and those are all churning out all kinds of data at the machine level that we can interrogate and draw meaningful conclusions from and share with our customers. One of the other things that's a little further down the road that we're looking into is something called scanless tracking. Right now, our software requires that as these instruments move throughout the perioperative loop, there's a human there that's scanning a barcode. So it moves from here to there to there. And the data that I talked about is only as good as the process and the compliance of scanning those. Customers would love to be able to remove that human element and let people just focus on what it is they're doing, cleaning and sterilizing those instruments. So we certainly would like to provide some sort of a solution somewhere out there in the future that removes that human element and has the process entirely automated. But there are a lot of hurdles that we need to overcome, potentially working with other vendors. We're not a hardware company ourselves, so it could be something RFID based, it could be something wireless based, but we've got to make sure that, first of all, customers can trust it, that they trust the data being provided, and that they can afford it. A lot of these solutions are still kind of cost prohibitive. So we need to be able to take those hardware and software solutions, marry them together into something that solves a customer problem. Those are certainly things that we're looking into and researching.
So very cool. Thank you for sharing all of those potential technologies that we hope they get to happen. And you gave us a little bit of a teaser as to what is coming for ConCensis, but Barry, could you give us a teaser into what we can expect to see from ConCensis in terms of new features or solutions in this coming year specifically?
Sure. We are actively working on some very cool new technology, and I would love to talk about it a little bit further. However, I'd be stealing my own thunder for CTUC 2022, where I'm going to talk about it in detail. And I would love to direct people to attend that session where I will give them all of the exciting details.
You heard it here first. So you got to attend CTUC 2022. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So that's where you're going to hear all of no spoiler alerts here. You're going to get all of that information there. So you got to go there. Awesome. Well, that wraps up the conversation for today. So I want to thank Barry and Susan for coming on the podcast today to talk about the future of sterile processing. If you want to learn more about ConCensis, please visit their website at censis.com and check out this podcast wherever it is you get your podcast at. Thank you, Barry and Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Gabrielle.